Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to another interview with me, Eric Hockley. I'm the curator at Foothills Art Center, and this is our YouTube channel. You are an artist, where we do our best to bring arts to everybody who watches the channel. I'm going to try and, regardless of your background, your academic background, or your understanding of art, I think we're going to bring you something today that you'll find interesting and hopefully learn something from. Today, I'm here with Nikki Nienhuis, who is in our Open Studio group. Go ahead, please, Nikki, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with Open Studio.
Thanks. How did I get involved? I think what happened was I had always heard about Open Studio, but never had the time. So after I successfully quit my job, I think I came across the plein air event. So you guys had a paint out, and I joined the paint out, and I met several of the members. And then they convinced me to start coming in on Fridays. So that's how it all started for me. I really just needed a little bit of a push and some encouragement. But once I got into Open Studio, it's a really lovely group. And about a year after I joined, I was volunteered to become chair. So,
Is that
so
voluntold? Is that what they say?
voluntold to be
Yeah.
chair, sure. But I absolutely love it because I'm not working full time. I'm pursuing my professional practice. It's nice to have some sort of group to be involved with and to actually have some responsibilities around. So I've enjoyed it. Yeah, so I can tell you a little bit more about the group.
I didn't realize that plein air event was your first time. Didn't you win something at that one?
Yep, I did. I got best use of medium, and I think I really shocked a lot of the people because I painted quite abstractly. I even did a mixed media oil piece where I collaged antique poetry, French poetry paper under oil paint.
Yeah.
And I had never even tried it before, but I figured why not outside with all of those stinky mediums. So
Hmm.
I did that. That's not the piece that won the award, but yeah, I did. And I won an award the second year too. So it's all good.
Well, I don't know who's in charge of that, but tell me a little bit more about Open Studio and what Open Studio does. I know we've covered it in other videos on the channel before, when we spoke to Charlotte a while back, but for
Sure.
anybody who hasn't seen that one, it's not a bad thing to talk about again.
Yeah. And it's always evolving, isn't it? For me, Open Studio has just been a lifesaver. It's a community, it's a place to create with other creative people. Right now, we have about 40 members, and they're of all ages, both men and women. We have people working in all sorts of different media. We're looking forward to getting the photographers involved as well now that we have a dark room.
Yeah.
And we have all abilities. So we have people who are acting as professional artists and people who are using their art as a hobby or a play and a practice just for fun. So the nice thing is that the collaboration within the group is very supportive. So we have some people who are very new at whatever they're trying to do, and then there's others who are right there to help them and give them advice or give a critique. So that's I think the best part of the whole thing is the community.
Yeah, I always talk about how art doesn't have to be a single person sport. It doesn't have to be a
Mm.
solo endeavor. You can team up in ways, even if it doesn't necessarily mean like you're collaborating on a piece of work. You can just have a group of people and you can be working in completely different ways, but feeling a sense of community. And
Mm-hmm.
what I always refer to as a sense of accountability to the other people. If you guys are meeting up weekly or multiple times a week, you need to do something in between. You show up with something new. You don't want to be the only person who says, "Oh, I slacked off." It's the same reason people like to work out in groups. It
Yeah.
you provides you with some sort of motivation. Whereas when you're alone, that can be harder to build up. That can be harder. That sort of discipline can be harder to find. So I think there's a lot of positive aspects to having a group like Open Studio to work in, where that you don't usually think about. It's not just about learning from other people or getting ideas from other people or critiques. Sometimes it can just be that other people are going to be there and they're going to be expecting to see something new from you.
It's true. Yeah. And just the collective energy. I mean, we can all just be working, and it's just nice to be around other working people. Like we're all just making something on the table or on the easel, and it's just
Yeah.
nice to know that, you can poke around and get inspiration or motivation from other people. Hmm.
Some
And
one
the
of the
classroom is just phenomenal. Like I gotta say, like the Peterson classroom where we work, I love it so much. So I can't wait to get back in there more often.
If only we had an elevator, it really would be
Yeah.
perfect.
Hmm.
One of the most energetic experiences I've ever had in art is going over to I don't think they exist anymore, is the Helican Gallery in Denver, and they have
Mm,
a really great system of artist studio spaces that I think they
mm.
jury in people, but then you pay rent, and it's just this vibrant atmosphere of people working, and so and so's down the hall, and you pop your head in their door and you see what they're working on, and oh, I'm working in here, but like this guy's on the couch, and it's just this great community environment, and everybody is pushing each other, and there's a little bit of competition, and then they're all working towards shows that go up in the galleries downstairs, and it was just this amazing atmosphere, and it made me so badly want Foothills to have something like that, the studio space. But like open studio, and when their meetings, you guys have a lot of those elements, but it would
Hmm.
just be, I would love to see it find an evolution in the next stage. And like if open studio became open studios and you could actually get in there and spend a couple of months working with us, or oh, one day we have the space.
Dreamy. It's so dreamy.
Dreamy. Yeah, that would be that's like my dream for this job. I love curation, I love exhibitions work, but like on the other side of things, to really start to push more towards cultivating artists working and
Nice.
popping my head in there. Or like what if an exhibition wasn't just the exhibition? What if we brought in the artist for a year and then it all led up to an exhibition, and we, instead of me like shooting emails back and forth, with artists and saying, oh, can you check in with me? I love to see what you're working on. Love to see what's happening. And then you're like constantly pecking at them, hounding at them to try and get more and more, so what's coming your way when it comes time to install the show. Imagine if they were in the building,
If they're right there.
three times a week, and I can like come and bug them in person.
All
That'd
you,
be so
you
amazing.
you just need to start an artist residency program,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's built
precisely
in.
that. It's not a
Yeah.
new idea. I just want
No.
one. I just want
Yeah.
one real bad for myself. Because I see it, you see it at Redline too. You can go to Redline
Yep.
and
I've looked at
see,
that one.
yeah, and see the artists working in their
Hmm.
studios, and then you see what's going to come out, and every once in a while you see them working in there, and you can poke your head in. Oh, it's so great. I love it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
totally.
that's definitely something I would love to see in the future. So in the meantime, Open Studio has a wall at Foothills that is your wall ownership. You guys get to do whatever you want with it. How long is it?
Yep.
It's like 15 feet or longer,
It's 20 feet
20 feet long, and it's right there.
or
When you
16
come,
feet or something.
yeah, that sounds right. When you come in and look at the front desk, it's the wall that's right behind you. So it's right
Yep.
there in our first area. And you
Hmm.
guys, I've given you carte blanche to do whatever you like on that wall in terms of installation, show variety, theme, schedule. I just
Yep.
gave it to you entirely. Whereas you used to have a show that would go up once a year in the in the community gallery. We felt like
Yep.
this would give you guys a little bit more freedom and also a learning experience. We've learned how to put labels together. You're learning how to hang more, because you guys had already hung your own open studio show, I think 3 years in a row. I was very
Yep.
happy always with your curation and the way in which you guys decided to hang that. You always hung
It's
it
a
super.
it's a great thing for us to learn how to do. Honestly, how many artists get to learn how to like professionally gallery style hang artwork and curate it? So it's an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, and that was a space we were using for retail that wasn't really showing too much of a dividend. So in
Hmm.
this way, now we have four different shows going up in the building simultaneously, of kind of like descending size. But it's just, there's just so much more work and so much more artist
Hmm.
representation going on, and that's really valuable to us. I mean, that is our mission in the end, is really to get work on the wall and in front of people and give everybody something different to look at, and lots of different options for folks. So
Yeah.
during COVID times, things were a little bit shaky. Open Studio not meeting as much. How have you guys been adapting to having to keep yourself physically away from each other?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. So we did put together Friday Zoom calls. So we had a had about an hour on the phone and on video with folks. And at first it was just catching up, making sure everybody was okay. So we still have that like that family feeling of, real concern for each other.
Hmm.
And we did a couple critiques, and then we also shared some ideas for motivation and getting kind of the art into your home. Most stuff was just like online. So we weren't getting together for many months. And then I suggested that we started at my house, and we had a backyard meeting. And so I have just enough space to put 10 people 6 feet apart in my backyard under the porch. And so we had our first get together and everybody brought a piece to talk about. And from there, other people hosted, and we had a few meetings in the park. And just in the last couple of weeks, have we started going back to the Peterson classroom in Foothills. And we had one week where we have max capacity of 10 in that space to be compliant, and each person gets 2 8-foot tables pushed together. And we had one week where we reached capacity. So it's nice to see that we're getting people back together. And I'm looking forward to it. This week, we are hosting a 1-hour workshop through Open Studio for our members with Janet Nunn to do a how to paint out kind of class in the garden. So I'm
cool.
hopeful that we'll get a good turnout for that. So
Are you guys
we're starting to get back together again.
Are you guys still doing your plein air event this year?
A couple of our
we?
members are organizing that yet,
Okay.
but we just got it up online. So it's September 25, 26, 27.
Okay.
There's no fees. There's no awards. We have, you can paint anywhere you want, but we have some designated places where people can get together.
Oh, nice.
And you can register online on the Foothills Art Center website.
Thing I was going to ask you about. So tell us a little bit about the Open Studio show that's up at the Golden History Museum right now.
Yeah, and it kind of follows suit because during COVID, we obviously had to cancel Golden Arts Week. And
that was a real bummer.
Totally. So what we had scheduled for that was a plein air paint out for Arts Week. And we had prearranged to have a show of those works created by Open Studio artists to show at the Golden History Museum. And because of COVID, everything at the History Museum changed as well. So working with the director there, we reorganized the schedule and we still had a block of time, and I didn't want to lose that. So I was able to pull together, I think we have 15 pieces in the show. And so we got art hung on the wall during COVID, which was quite spectacular. I mean, I don't know, some artists were prolific during COVID and some artists just couldn't get their mojo or they were too busy. So it was just really sensitive to try and encourage people to hang their work, but also respect their limitations on where they were at. So
yeah, that is tricky. I had artists who really cranked during, like artists I had exhibitions planned with, like Maddie O, for instance, was a dynamo during COVID. She produced enormous amounts. She produced enormous amounts of work during COVID. And then I had other artists like ghost me, completely disappear, cancel, like artists under contract, and there's just there's nothing you can do about it. Unfortunately, people chasing opportunity, moving to different countries, moving to different states, trying to sort things out. The artist we just had an artist cancel in the community gallery. He's going to go start a tattoo shop elsewhere. And we were supposed to do this great big show. We talked about it for months and months, and he's a good guy. And I haven't even, like, if I'm being honest, I haven't even emailed him back yet because I don't want to be mean because I'm annoyed, and I don't want to be like passive aggressive or anything. So I don't even know what to say except fine. But even that would kind of be rude. So I'm just waiting to email back until I'm past it and we've solved everything. Yeah. So it's what are you going to do? It's completely unprecedented, circumstances, especially in my career. It's not like I can look back on an experience I've had that can compare, but Foothills has been doing everything we can. That's the entire reason this YouTube channel exists is COVID and just trying to adapt.
Yeah, I know we're all making changes. COVID really pushed me to do more on video too, which I was never comfortable with, but I had a solo show in with closed doors. So the only way I could get it out there was on video. So we're all learning.
People have really appreciated the video walkthroughs. I'm surprised because they're really easy to do. They just okay, we walk through, we set it to some music, we put some information along with it, and people really do appreciate it. They feel like they're in the gallery. And then if we do something else, like an interview, and we refer to that, they can feel equipped. They can feel equipped to understand what we're talking about in the interview because they had a walkthrough.
Smart.
They had like a walkthrough of the show. So that's been really nice. But let's take a look at a couple of pieces that are in the Golden History Museum. I'm going to share and go to photos. I got Melody's piece up here first.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite pieces in the show.
Yeah, and I thought when I was looking at that, we met the other day and we were looking at it. I didn't tell you my car battery died that
Oh,
day, that cold day, and I
oh
was
no.
wishing I had had you wait around for 5 more seconds because I could have asked you for a jump or something.
Oh
But
no.
but we got it all sorted. But that first snowy day, we met up at the Golden History Museum. We take a look, and we're trying to think of, because this work was all put together in kind of a disparate fashion. There was no theme or precognition about what it was all going to be. So I'm looking and I'm thinking, what can we talk about? And there's a great deal of textural variation in the works in this show. So we can start here and just take a look at, so now we've got a line drawing, right, with
Mm.
some good use of perspective, some good detail and omission of detail, which is something I was talking about when we were there. And we can start to look at like what textures, this is kind of a hard place to start. Maybe we go to a different one to start. We come back to this one. Um, okay, now we got yours. We can look at
Mine
yours.
don't have a whole lot of specific texture. It's funny, I
I
do a lot of texture, but these two don't represent it as much.
these are more uniform, but even still, we can talk about so let's clarify for everybody, like, what do we mean by texture? Texture is not always, if you were to put your hand on the painting, what you would feel. That is one method of generating texture in work. But you can also generate texture just through line and brush quality. You can choose to make your lines look a way that will evoke in the eye, and then
Mm-hmm.
therefore in your brain, um, a different feeling of texture. And you can also use not just line quality, but color selection will sometimes feel textural. You can have lighter colors will tend to feel smoother, if and then higher contrast stuff, like how you have these dark lines. Let's zoom in a little bit here. Like these dark lines up against lighter greens and lighter blues can create a texture in and of themselves. Even if you were there in real life and you ran your hand across this painting, it's all going to feel pretty much uniform. So for those of us who aren't completely clear on the term, where texture is often simulated and not actual. So when we talk about that in work, that is what we're talking about. And Nikki's work specifically, I think most important to notice when we're talking about the texture of this piece is the way in which you use texture to render these planes, and the differences in what is going on in terms of, you can see my cursor, right?
Yep.
So you have a flat plane up here, which is like grass and brush, and it is coming off quite a bit smoother compared to exposed rock here. And just having these two different textures up against one another creates a 3D effect. We can understand that this is facing us and this is up above, because the point at which these textures meet, not only is there a textural difference, but there's also contrast in the color. So that can be really useful in trying to convey to your viewer what the shape of something is. Another way in which you use it really effectively is that you have a very smooth and uniform texture for the sky, even compared to a slight texture in the grass at the top of the hill here, the horizon line, which allows the actual form of the hill to come forward in space, and you can push the sky backwards. And that's a way of creating depth in an image. So we talk about, a lot of times I tell people about how tonal variation is super important for work not looking flat, but you can create that very same contrast in that you would have with tone, you can create with texture, and you do that really well. Is there anything else about the texture, or just about these works in general, you want to reference, since I've just been blathering?
No, I think it's interesting to hear how you speak of texture as well. The only thing I was thinking of mentioning was obviously the scribbles in the front of the lower piece,
Mm-hmm.
bringing that part of the landscape forward. But then on the tree, so yeah, the scribbles there. And
Move
then on the
up.
tree, I have heavier application of the paint in the front of the tree. So it is the lighter part of the tree that we see here, but it brings that forward to make the tree more round.
Yeah.
And then I like to wisp off the edges of the tree to kind of give them an atmospheric effect of going back.
Right.
So the ones that blend into the background towards the orange.
Yeah. So that lightening, that smoothing of the texture, it can do everything that like lighter or more airy, fuzzier, like less focused,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can
Right.
atmospheric effect is tied directly to texture because not only do things closer to you have more detail, but that sharpness will produce a different texture, and they're like sharp and clear imagery will often look more rough, and then things that are further away that need to be fuzzier, less in focus, and therefore pushed back in space will feel smoother and softer, and all of those things kind of tie together. um, we can now double back and we can compare what we're talking about in the textures here and the way you use texture to build form. We can now look at melodies again and take some of the things we were talking about and apply them to looking at hers. And here it's more stark because it's also a little different in terms of what she's trying to achieve, because there isn't a whole lot of depth to create when we're talking about a narrow focused subject matter like this. She's elected to like wipe out the background and just white out and focus in directly on the house. So in, instead of using texture to build enormous amounts of depth, she's using it to guide your eye to what is particularly interesting for her, and that's up to the artist, right? It's up to the artist where you want the eye to go, and it's important to know that you have that control when you're making decisions. So this is what I was talking about when we met in real life, was how she could have gone and give this grass or whatever's going on in the front yard here all kinds of texture. Same thing with the little hedges, but she whites those out and makes them smooth, and they lose themselves in the front fascia of the house. And instead, our eyes get drawn to the brick. We get drawn to, I don't know enough about houses to tell you what this is called, this triangular rooftop area. Do you know what they're called?
No,
I'm gonna have to Google that.
an eavesment or something. I'm
Leave it
not
in the
sure.
comments uh, at me. Tell me what it's called. But yeah, all of these textures end up drawing your eye. You get drawn into the house, and more specifically, you get drawn into this front window here where the tonal variation spikes, right? We have a very, very overall lightly colored, bright whites out on the outside. We're just seeing the paper through the line work. And then we get into the house and we have real shadow, real dark. We have the negative of the crossbars on the window, and that all draws you right in. And it is the textures that arise are because of the nature of this work, are all created through line work, or created through hatching, and the rendering of the bricks and the rendering of the lines, and they also draw you in along with the perspective right into that window, right up the front stairs. I think that that's really interesting, and just a totally different way of making use of different textures to really generate an interesting subject.
Mm-hmm.
We're running a little long here, but maybe we can look at one more since this is all so interesting. Oh, here's a completely different one. This is Mary Jo,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I'll have you start with this one. What are you seeing interesting texturally in this one? This
Well,
one
and
goes
I've
really nice with
watched,
that warm lighting, huh? In that room.
yeah, yeah, in the wall.
Yeah.
I've watched her work, and I just love how she progresses through the piece. And so I know this is done in oil, and I know that she works. I don't have the right technical term for it, but mushy, right? So she blends a lot on the canvas. And
Yeah.
then what I love about this piece is that
Wet and
after
wet.
she's, yeah,
Does that
wet and
count?
wet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think she always works that fast. I think she'll come back in later too
Uh-huh.
to add more colors. But I love that most of the background's blended and smooth. The edges are soft, and she really focuses on her shapes and her values. But since we're talking about texture, she and I had a conversation over the summer about line quality, and I know that she had purchased some oil-based pens.
Hmm.
But when you and I looked at this piece, she must have gone in with a tube of paint, and those bright gold lines that you see there, I think she directly used them right out of the tube of the paint. I think she squirted from the tube onto the canvas, which is a very brave and bold move.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
gutsy for sure. That's a
it
Pollock
is.
move. Someone
Mm-hmm.
who's working in a kind of abstract expressionist style. I wonder how these are. So these lines are interesting too, and they create kind of a cool jagged texture over here. And I don't know if those, I don't think those are made in the same way. These look a
Oh,
lot thinner in terms of the paint application. I don't know if these were maybe
they
done
could
with that
be the
pen.
marker. Yeah, if it
Yeah.
has a fat side and a thin side.
Yeah,
But
it looks
even
like a
just,
chiseled edge. Yeah,
yep, exactly. Yeah. And
that's
I
great.
think she achieves a lot of texture right above that purple mark where the orange is laid on top of that grayish blue, and that makes it look um, less smooth, more sharp. Just
Yeah.
obviously like texture. Yeah, I like
Hmm.
that part.
Yeah, it's you can really use this piece to talk about what harsh lines versus soft lines
Yeah,
versus
edges.
completely blended out edges. You can
Yep.
still see lines in
Hmm.
here. You can see brushwork even here as we get to the edge, and it fades out more and more and more as you get to the perimeter of the work, but they're there. They're
Hmm.
just way less noticeable, and you can almost see the gradient build. The gradient does not exist only in the colors. It doesn't just go from those grays, those dark blues, those dark greens, all the way out to the yellow, but the texture itself reduces in severity, moving from
Hmm.
the center on out to the edge, which is,
Hmm.
it kind of synergizes, right? You have, you, if you want to keep everything focused in the middle, you could do it through just varying your colors and keep your, traditional way to do it would be keep your darks in the center and keep your lights on the outside, and everybody's going to, their eyeballs are going to flow right to the center of the page. But that would just be one, that'd just be like one tool in your toolbox. If you also use texture the way she does, you can stack their effects and really get the eyeball working through the middle of the page and use all of this line and this texture to bring you through, and you can appreciate how like rough and tempestuous it is in the center,
Hmm.
and then have these moments of like peace and relaxation out on the edge. It's cool to look at abstracts in this way because I think oftentimes your eye, if you're in a show and you're looking and you see non-subjective work next to subjective work, sometimes it's tough to remind yourself to look at the non-subjective stuff and really analyze it in the same way. And I think the best abstracts make it easier for you to do that. It's abstract, but there's still a form, there's still a subject, there's still a
Hmm.
path for your eye to take, and I think that's what makes it really strong. Um, but yeah, so Nikki, thank you so much for taking the time to talk today, and I hope everybody goes down to the Golden History Museum and checks out the show. When can people see it, and when can they see it until?
Yeah, so the Golden History Museum in downtown Golden is open Thursday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this show will run through Saturday, September 26th.
Excellent, excellent.
Yep.
And I just want to thank everybody who's watching for watching. And if you really appreciate what we're doing, you can support us on foothillsartcenter.org. You can make a donation. These are free to watch, but not free to make. And thank you so much. Please do subscribe and thumbs up and all that stuff on YouTube. And Nikki, again, thank you so much for taking the time. We hope to see you again real soon.